Look, I'm really happy to be contributing to this debate today as well. It's a really important debate and a really important topic, and particularly today on International Women's Day. But I'm particularly happy to be able to contribute to this debate from the government benches as part of the Albanese Labor government. Now, we agree that women in Australia, of course, deserve genuine progress on their safety, on health and on economic security. But do you know how that happens? It happens from only the structural changes, the long-term systemic changes, which you can do from government. And if you need any evidence of this, you can see it in the past decade, where no amount of protest or opposition was enough to stop Tony Abbott when he appointed himself as a Minister for Women in a cabinet with only one other woman. It wasn't enough to stop the Liberals trying to force those experiencing domestic violence to raid their superannuation accounts. It wasn't enough to stop the now opposition, then government, leaving the Respect at Work report gathering dust on a shelf. And it wasn't enough to stop the plummet in staff numbers at the Office for Women. No, opposition, as loud as it may have been, wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to stop us going from 23 to 50 for overall gender equality in the Gender Gap Index. That's what happened under the previous government. But you know how you change it? You know how you turn that around? You do it from within government, by forming government. Not from opposition, not from the noisy stuff on the sidelines. And being in government requires adult decision-making processes, decisions which require you to pay for things, cost them, prioritise them and deliver them. And we do deliver in the Labor Party. When we're in government, we deliver. Indeed, I would say we are the only party in this place who could stand here with any meaningful credibility and say we have delivered the real long-term systemic changes which have made a significant difference to gender equity and equality in Australia. And we've done this because we believe in gender equality, we fight for it, but also we are the embodiment of it. This is the first government in our nation's history which is majority female. And it shows. It shows in what we're doing, it shows in how we're acting, it shows in what we're prioritising. And this government, this Labor government, is not the first reforming Labor government on the question of gender equality. Actually, every government, every time we've held government, we've made significant strides to make this place, this country, a better, fairer, equal, more safe place for women. Whether it's the Whitlam government introducing no-fault divorce and their support for equal pay, or the Hawke and Keating governments with the Sex Discrimination Act, Rudd and Gillard governments introducing Commonwealth paid parental leave and the National Plan to reduce domestic and family violence. Every time we're in government, every time Labor is in government, we deliver for women. Not from the sidelines, but from these benches, by making the tough decisions, the difficult decisions that prioritise women's equality and equity. Our government, the Albanese government, will be no exception. We're 1 year in, but already we're embedding women's economic equality as a core economic imperative, making significant investments in early childhood education to boost productivity and women's ability to participate in the workforce, knowing that their children are well cared for, that they can afford to make that decision to go back to work. We're extending paid parental leave progressively up to 6 months, but importantly we're also making it fairer so that more families can access paid parental leave, including single-parent families. We're establishing the Women's Economic Equality Task Force to provide advice to government and commence work on a national strategy to achieve gender equality. We've supported a pay increase for aged care and low-paid workers, overwhelmingly who are women. We've led negotiations with the states and territories to finalise the National Plan to end violence against women and children. And we've backed this up with funding, $1.7 billion to implement the plan, including $83 million for consent and respectful relationship education and $100 million for crisis and transitional housing options for women and children fleeing domestic and family violence. We've legislated paid family and domestic violence leave, a huge and proud moment in this parliament. And we're funding and legislating to fully implement all 55 recommendations of the Respect at Work report. In addition to this, when it comes to women's health, we've established a National Women's Advisory Council to tackle medical misogyny. You don't have to dig too deep into our healthcare system to see how it disadvantages women. But the truth is, if you want to make these changes, these big structural changes, you have to do it as a party of government. There's only one party in this place who's delivered for women on these big structural issues, made meaningful strides towards gender equality. It's Labor, Labor, Labor.